Personally love all of Ashley's work online, so I hope that you really gain a lot from this session. Take it away, Ashley.
Amazing. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I wish that I could be with you in person, but since I can't, I am thrilled to be here in this expression. And over the next 2 hours, we're going to really dive into the topic of hashtag campaigns and how to use hashtag campaigns as a way to mobilize your audience, as a way to grow your audience, as a way to bring in money, as a way to build recognition and get people involved in whatever the work is that you're doing. And I think it's going to be super fun. I am really passionate about this stuff, and so we're gonna jump right in. My name is Ashley, and if you watched the keynote, then maybe you got to know a little bit about me. But if you haven't, I am a coach, and I really help people move from self-sabotage into self-support so that they can build powerhouse brands and lives. And hashtag campaigns is one of those ways to build a real powerful brand. And I've been an entrepreneur for the last 6 years. I got really involved. My gateway, I guess, into entrepreneurship was through activism as a teenager, which led into online community building and online mobilizing of audiences around messaging and causes, and that sort of like became the entry point for me to become a full-time entrepreneur. And I'm still just obsessed as ever in terms of really coming out with a strong message to inspire people to do something with their one amazing life. And so we're going to talk all about that stuff, about how sort of my approach to how to mobilize people online through social media. And I almost always use hashtag campaigns. And so I want you, as you sort of like dive into this material with me, to really imagine for you and the work that you do what this could look like, and to really dream big in terms of not only the impact it could have on whatever you're doing and on any initiative and work that you are leading, but also what it could look like to dream up something this big. So why I want to talk about social hashtag campaigns and why I think they're such a powerful tool is because they are truly a marketing tool. They're truly a marketing tool to help you rally your community and influencers to create a prompt that is crafted out of your own message. The result of this is that people get the chance to really experience your message and be impacted by it while growing your community and giving your brand a lot of momentum. And this can be done long term or short term. The way that I want you to see social hashtag campaigns are a way, like if you just need to look at it in a very simple term, just look at it in terms of it is a way for people to have an experience of what my message is, what the message is of this work, so that they can be either inspired by it, changed by it, and want to take action out of it. And then also they become real lifetime community members to you or to what you're doing. They're really interested in following what you do. Maybe they become incredibly loyal advocates. Maybe they come on board in multiple different ways. It is just crafting a very intentional moment for people to basically fall in love with what you do. So, but I want to give you some examples because you might be thinking like, oh, it sounds nice, but what is that? What does that even mean? And so I wanted to give you some examples of successful hashtag campaigns. So some of these are more from the nonprofit world. Some of these are from activism. Some of these are from corporate. So a massive successful example of a hashtag campaign would be the Me Too movement, where women shared their stories through that hashtag, and it went incredibly far-reaching and did a lot of work. Another one that went really viral is the Ice Bucket Challenge, And I mean, I feel like when it was going on, like it was literally everywhere at all times. Um, a corporate example is the Share Coke with and how they printed names on Coke bottles and kind of created this feeling of like, oh, if you like you find a bottle with your name, like you have to get it. Or if someone finds a bottle with their best friend's name, they like have to get it. And it really created a buying, I would say, buying frenzy. Anything too, I think that you can create that's personal to people. That's why people love things like personality tests. They love like hearing about this. They love to hear about themselves and to feel like things are specifically intentionally directed at them. So that's why I think that one did really well. And then a couple other ones I mentioned here is about bringing our girls back and opt outside, which is like was a campaign to just inspire people to get outside more. So those are all examples of hashtag campaigns that carried some significant weight. Now, some of these, obviously, these campaigns had a lot of money behind them. Obviously, like Coca-Cola is not like struggling to bring in money. And so they could put a lot of money into like advertising media. But some of these are a lot more grassroots. And that, we're going to talk a lot about how if you have the right message mixed with the right concept, you can create something that's truly contagious. I got super into hashtag campaigns through, doing different activism work, but none of them had really taken off to the extent that, I was kind of hoping that they would. So I did, for example, I did one where there was a bill here. Oh, because I'm Canadian. I forgot to mention that in my introduction. There was a bill here in Canada that was trying to be pushed through to turn into a law. It was a bill that would make it, that would sort of put a minimum sentence, mandatory minimum sentence on anyone caught trafficking minors through Canada. Because at that time there were no mandatory minimums. And I was like, this bill is so important, but it was really stuck in one of the agencies of our bill passing system into law. And so I called up a politician, the politician who was the main force trying to push it through. And I said, like, what can I do? Like, what can I do to help? I was very young. I was, I don't know, 20, maybe 20. But I just had so much boldness. So I was just like, what do you need me to do? And I'll do it. And she was like, who are you? And then I went and she said, well, we really need people to write letters to senators. And I said, no problem. So I left that meeting and I launched a campaign, which was very simple language at the time. It was just called hashtag write a letter, change the world, which is not a strong hashtag when I look at it now, but back then that was what I knew to do. And I ended up rallying thousands of people to send letters to their senators, and we actually ended up getting mentioned in the Senate because all of a sudden so many letters were pouring in, and the bill became a law. So that's a good example of more on the political side and the activism side of the campaign. But I didn't have like tons of money. I didn't have tons of influence at all. I was just this 20-year-old girl trying to make something happen, and I did it. And the power in that is that I don't think you need tons of resources. I don't even think you need a ton of time. I just think that you need a powerful way to mobilize people and an inspiring message. And so those are the two things that I'm going to focus a lot on through this workshop. So like I said, there's a lot of power in hashtag campaigns. Hashtag campaigns can be done on any social media platform that utilizes hashtags. So Twitter, specifically Twitter and Instagram, powerful for hashtag use. Campaigns can also be done on Facebook, but why hashtags can work so well is because it's a very clear area of like how the community is congregating, and it's like you can go to the hashtag and you can see all the posts. Um, and a lot of my experience has been on Instagram. I like many years ago did more Twitter focused campaigns, and so I have a little bit in that, but in recent years almost all my campaigns have been done on Instagram. But they can grow your following, grow the people who are watching what you're doing, get more hearts connected to your message and expand your reach. To recognition, you can get known for that message. That's why it's so powerful when you can get really intentional about the message, create a hashtag campaign concept out of that existing message, because then anyone who finds that campaign, and if it's successful and it goes far wide and reaching, then you become known for your message because it's so tied into the campaign. And number 3 is to get money. Use momentum as a strategy to make more sales, donations, or funding. Something, for example, like the ice bucket challenge, how it was like challenge someone to throw a bucket of ice over their head or make a donation, and it really paid off for them at the end. I mean, this picture is funny to me because it looks like I am running for political office, but I'm not running for political office. Apparently, that's how I wave. But I've run over 10 hashtag campaigns for multiple brands, both for myself and brands I have built, but also clients, to accelerate the message, community, and impact in sales. But I'm most known for my viral hashtag campaigns through The Imperfect Boss. The Imperfect Boss was a campaign that started in 2016. And I knew that I wanted to create a campaign that highlighted the fact that anyone who's an entrepreneur is not having the perfect time all the time. I wanted to showcase like the imperfect side, the emotional side, the side of when it's really, really hard, and brought in a ton of influencers through the last few years to do many campaigns. I think the Imperfect Boss has hosted 7 or 8 campaigns. Some, have been really far-reaching, and the first one was incredibly far-reaching because it almost like hit this visceral point, and that's what you want when the message and the concept can really hit a visceral point. And the concept for the Imperfect Boss was that people would write down a confession, what makes them the imperfect boss. So it could be things like, I don't know. Well, it could be really intense things like I have failed, or I lost tons of money, or sometimes I get really jealous of other people, or I've lied to get here. I don't know, anything like that. Or like I really struggle with mental illness, or I ignore my husband all the time, whatever. And then some of the confessions were smaller, like I always forget to make myself lunch, or sometimes I cancel meetings and say it's an emergency, but it's not actually an emergency. Basically, it was like this big truth-telling campaign, and it really hit a visceral point with a lot of women entrepreneurs, which it was targeted at. Now, because of those campaigns with the Imperfect Boss, I grew my personal Instagram following by 800% in 8 months. When I started the Imperfect Boss, I only had like 1,200 followers, and then in 8 months I had over 8,000. Grew a new Instagram account from 0 to 15,000 in the first year. I've literally pitched probably at this point thousands of influencers, and we're going to talk a lot about that through this workshop, how to rally influencers. Hosted 2 large-scale retreats, worldwide attendance, hosted a camp in the middle of nowhere in Canada 2 years in a row, and both of them had between 60 to 80 participants from everywhere from the U.S., Canada, Spain, Philippines, Dominican Republic. Been able to impact thousands of lives. That's what the main point for me. With my clients, I've seen people have their biggest launches post campaign, because if you can create a successful campaign, you'll be able to create um, a sense of hype almost and momentum, and people will be like, "What's next?" And then they'll want to buy, or give, or whatever that looks like. Also brought in over $20,000 in sponsorship partnerships in 2 years. And one time I got recognized in the grocery store. But that was just for fun. So now we're going to go through the strategy. So there's 5 steps to the strategy. The first one we're going to talk about is messaging, creating a campaign concept, rallying people, launching the campaign, and leading post-campaign. We're going to spend a lot of time on those first 3, on how to create that powerful message, how to create that contagious campaign concept, and how to rally people. If you get these 3 in a really good place, I can almost guarantee that you'll have a successful campaign. If you miss one of these main ones, you're going to have a lot of trouble launching it to the potential that it could be and seeing the impact that you would hope to have. So first, I want to say that this happens a lot where people are like, yes, actually, you've convinced me. I'm going to create a hashtag campaign and I'm going to launch it tomorrow. And I just want to say that if you go into building and creating a hashtag campaign and you launch it like tomorrow or you launch it next week, it's not gonna be successful because you haven't put enough of a foundation into it in order to know that it's going to take off with confidence. I say that it takes a strong campaign about a minimum of 3 months to launch one well. And that might even be like, that's even putting a ton of work into 3 months. And I know that can seem like a long period of time, but as you go through this, you're going to see why that matters and why that's so important. A lot of times when people try and create hashtag campaigns and launch them too fast, they become incredibly disappointed by the results. And they become disappointed because they're like, why aren't people catching on? Or why isn't this working? Or why isn't it successful? And they're not seeing the true impact that a campaign could have because they weren't willing to be patient and willing to put in the work beforehand. A lot of work in campaigns happens before anyone sees anything. So like I said, we're going to go through my 5-step process, which I already went over, but your message, your concept, your people, launch it, and let's lead. So first, we're going to talk about clarifying your message. So this is so important because your message will truly become the foundation of a successful hashtag campaign. You must have a powerful and clear message in order to really pull off a successful campaign. If your message is diluted, if it's unclear, if it has if it's kind of like hazy, and if people are like, what does it even really mean? If it comes across as fluffy, even if it lacks conviction, it's going to be really hard to build a campaign off of that. And so before we do anything, we want to make sure that the foundation of what we're building will carry that clear message. Because you want your powerful message, one, to be clear. You need it to be super clear what you're saying. It reminds, I think about this a lot because I used to do, in my entrepreneurship journey, I was a copywriter, freelance copywriter for a little bit. And it's crazy, like how some people will speak something, but in such a roundabout way, and it lacks conviction and clarity. For example, if someone's like trying to say that their message is, let's say that their message is that they believe that when you take care of yourself, that you can make more money. Let's say that's their message. When you take care of yourself, you can make more money. well, like they might go in a really weird roundabout way of saying that and saying like, oh, like you're so amazing and like you're worthy of being taken care of, and maybe like if you do that, like you'll have have abundance, or maybe then you'll be able to pay your bills, instead of just like going incredibly clear and convicted in it and saying it like, when you take care of yourself, you can make more money. Um, you also want to evoke emotion through your message. You want to make people feel something. Nothing will inspire people to action more than if you can evoke, um, than when you can evoke an emotion. And you want it to be actiony things. So you want your message to inspire action. When people hear your message, you want it to stir something up inside of them. And that's how emotion and clarity can support the action inducing. Those are the 3 marks. Now, the goals of your campaign will determine the messaging of your campaign. And so this kind of goes along with, if you want to gain more followers, then you're probably going to want to use your brand message. But if the goal for your campaign is that you want to have people sign up for a specific initiative, then you will want to use your initiative specific messaging. So for example, like let's use the Imperfect Boss for an example. If the brand message of the Imperfect Boss is that, like embrace your vulnerability and you can be confident even if you feel imperfect, well, then that's the message that's going to form the concept campaign. But if, let's say I have an initiative going on that says that's going to be like a class, let's say it's a class for how to set boundaries, then I'm going to want my campaign messaging to be specific to that initiative. And so then maybe I'll launch a campaign that has something to do with boundaries, so that when I run the campaign and after I launch the campaign, that I can, that it's like an easy connect. Basically, whatever you're going to offer at the end of the campaign, you want it to be connected to the messaging of the campaign. Otherwise, it's going to seem disconnected and you won't get as much of a result as you could if they were truly connected. So some questions to consider when you're clarifying your campaign message that I like to use, and then I'm going to give you a couple of examples of how this could roll out. Number 1 is, what truth you want people to walk away with? Number 2, how will that truth change their life? How will knowing that change their life or do something in them? Number 3, what do they need to experience, or what do they need to experience the impact of that truth? What needs to be in place so that they can really receive that message, they can really receive that truth, and be impacted by it, because this will inform the next step of the campaign concept. So let's give an example. So this example is more of a mobilizing example where you're really trying to get people to get involved. So let's say you're running an initiative in the midst of a natural disaster and you're getting people to donate what they can to rebuild the city. So maybe what the truth is that you want people to walk away with is that they have something to give. Now, how will that truth change their life? Well, maybe it'll move them from feeling stuck to feeling a part of something. Number 3, what do they need to experience the impact of that truth? Well, they're probably going to need awareness of the need mixed with an awareness of what they can give. And so, using that as a message, which is truly that, people have something to give, then you can create a campaign concept using that information. So let's say you're wanting to do more a campaign that's built on awareness, not necessarily getting people involved, but even just building awareness of what's going on, that maybe there is a natural disaster that people in general don't know about, and maybe you're hoping that you just the goal is more to really just take the blinders off. So what is the truth that you want people to walk away with? Well, it could be literally stating the fact that there are people who have lost homes. how will that truth change their life? Well, maybe it'll evoke them to do something. It'll evoke them to give. It'll evoke them to volunteer. And what do they need to experience the impact of that truth? Well, they need awareness. They need to know what's going on, and maybe they need to hear stories, feel connected to the people who are suffering. So that's step one, clarifying your message, your campaign message. Step two is where we design the concept. Like I mentioned before, we use the message to design a campaign prompt to empower your audience to experience the message that we just clarified. In this part of this step of designing your concept will be really what brings your message to life, and is really to me the most important step. Because if you don't have a great concept, it doesn't matter how many people you get on board. It doesn't matter how many people you pitch. It's going to be really difficult to get it off the ground. So your campaign concept is truly like a well-crafted opportunity for someone to experience your message, like I shared, which is really the definition of the hashtag campaign. And if they can experience your message, they will be changed by it, and they will be inspired into action. And you get to decide what that action is based on how you craft this concept. So if we even think about the examples that I gave in the beginning, the Me Too movement, it was the action that was prompted was post your story on Twitter and use the hashtag. With the Ice Bucket Challenge, the concept was challenge a friend or pay up. Even with the Coca-Cola one, the concept was find your name and enjoy a drink with friends. And so then even with mine, Then Perfect Boss, the concept was write what makes you Then Perfect Boss, post it on social media. In all of those examples, you'll see that the campaign concept is usually easy and it needs to be easy or people won't do it. Especially when you start working with influencers and stuff, you want the campaign concept to be as easy as possible, because the more easy it is, the easier it will be to get a yes. And that applies to people in general. If they see that it's easy, it'll be easier for them to say yes. Now, on the same side of that, it needs to be engaging or captivating. It needs to really hit a place in the heart, usually, or either hit a place in the heart or hit a core value or hit a piece of their story. That will all those three things will naturally create a lot more engagement. And you want it to be an experience. You want people to feel like they're a part of something. You want people to feel like by doing this easy thing, that they are part of a greater community, that they're part of a greater movement, that they are making a difference by joining in. So here's an example. This is a more of a concept example from a business or a creative. But if you get your wheels turning a little bit. So let's say there's this girl, Sarah. She is a calligrapher, and she loves what she does, and she loves teaching other people to do it. Maybe underneath calligraphy, her message is all about helping people slow down and finding out how they really want to feel through lettering. Because to sit down and letter, they have to unplug from technology. They have to slow down. The pen can only move so fast. So in order for someone to experience that message, well, they're going to need the experience of slowing down, tuning in, and lettering what they're feeling. We could turn that, so this doesn't exist, but someone should do this. So we could turn that concept into a hashtag campaign called Slow Down and Letter. And the after effects on that individual could be better mental health, peace, getting in the present, and feeling connected to a larger community. Now, I want to talk a little bit about naming the campaign. Basically, whatever the name of your campaign is the hashtag. Don't make those two separate things because that's just very confusing. Number one, it must be unique. You want to make sure that your name and that your hashtag are one the same and two are unique to you. One of the worst mistakes you could make when launching a hashtag campaign is to use a hashtag that's already been used a ton of times, because then people will go to the hashtag and they're going to see a million different things that have nothing to do with you, and it's going to become very confusing. So a way to make sure that it is unique is to look it up on Instagram or your platform of choice. Check. I say that if it's been used less than 20 times, then you're probably okay. But my marker is if it's been used over 20 times, I'm not going to use it, because I just wouldn't want anyone going into that hashtag and seeing things and becoming confused. Like this must not be the right place for me. The other thing is that you want the language to be unique. A lot of times what happens in social media is that certain words become so trendy, and then they sort of lose their edge a little bit. A perfect example is the word authenticity, because it is in some ways used so much and it's somewhat become a cliche. So if you all of a sudden come out with a campaign and you're like, authenticity forever, hashtag, people are going to be like, oh, that's old news. And so language too is really important, making sure that you're using unique language. Number two is it's got to be empowering. Even in the name, you want there to be a sense of ownership so that it empowers people to really run with it for themselves. A good example of this is what I did with the Imperfect Boss. So here's a couple Kickstarters when you're thinking of the hashtag name. One is to either keep it identity focused, like I am the, or the, something where it's like people can own it, like, yeah, that's who I am. That's what I'm a part of. Number two, action focused. So taking the action of your campaign concept and forming the hashtag that way. So hashtag make the, hashtag walk the streets. I don't know, something like that. That it's like you read the hashtag and you're instantly induced into an action. Number three is vision focused. Like, what's the after effects of being a part of this? So a prompt you could use is hashtag change the. I don't know, it could be something like hashtag change the self-talk, hashtag transform. I wouldn't use this one because it's a little cliche, but hashtag transform the city. There's a vision focus in there, that even when people don't read a description, that if they just read the hashtag, they're like, yeah, I want to be a part of this because I want to be a part of seeing a vision like that fulfilled. The other thing is community. You want to make sure there's a sense of community in it, so that it can feel like we're in this together. Relationships will happen. Depending on your campaign and the goals, you might go more with this route, or you might go more with the second one, on ownership. But here's a couple to get you kickstarted thinking. Number one, hashtag together we. I know there's been lots of hashtag together we rise, hashtag together we lead. Number two, focusing on the we identity versus the I identity. So we are the, or we are. Or three, focusing on impact, similar to vision. We disrupt the narrative. We disrupt the way things have always been done. But that's a way too long of a hashtag, which is another important key. You don't want it to be so long that people forget it, or they're like, how do you spell that? Yeah, don't want that. So I want to give you an example because I love examples. Let's say your campaign concept was for people to post photos of them sitting down with their family for dinner. this idea of like we don't normally sit down and eat dinner as a family anymore, and we miss that connection. Your name could make or break this concept, and its contagion, if you will. Um, so an example of not the best name would be something like dinner with the fam, hashtag family dinner. One, because those likely both of those have tons of posts under them already. Doesn't really tell me what the vision is. It sounds more like a descriptor. A good name could be bring back family dinners, or hashtag the family sit-in, kind of playing off the idea of like a protest. Um, Even the first one, bring back family dinners, it speaks of a vision of like what could change in our life if we sat down and ate dinner together. Now, how long to run a campaign for is another important part about that comes up in this step. Because I've seen campaigns run forever. I've seen campaigns run organically forever. I've seen them run for 3 months, a month. I personally take the approach of I only run campaigns for 3 days. 3 days gives me this moment in time where I'm hyper focused on mobilizing the audience for 3 days. I find that if it's less time than that, people could find out about the campaign too late, and it affects the largeness of the community that I can build. Yeah, vagueness? I don't know. And then if it runs too long, I find that people get bored and they sort of lose interest. Whereas the key place you want to be is like this spot where people are so excited, and then you come in with what's next, versus you don't want them to get like, oh, super engaged and like, what is this? Oh yeah, I'm totally going to take part. And then it just keeps going, and so they're just like, oh, okay, yeah, you did that. You want to really like utilize the momentum that can happen. In this step, you'll also want to decide what you're going to launch after. Like, how are you going to lead people after? You want to know this even before you start rallying, or even sometimes before you create the concept, because that's going to determine the creation of the concept. It could also even determine what message you're really going to utilize. It can be something free or paid, but you really want to know where you're taking people next. Like, are you inviting people to sign up for a program? Are you inviting people to download a resource? Are you inviting people to give money? Are you inviting people to become like advocates? What are you really wanting people to do? And that'll determine a lot of things. That is definitely not something that you want to leave to the end and say, okay, now what do I do with all these people? That's definitely something that I've done, and it's a missed opportunity. So think about this in these planning steps. And so you want to create a landing page to make your campaign official, just to just write out the title, dates, concept, and inspirational rally call. I always use Squarespace. That's why it says Squarespace for the win. This will help too when you start reaching out to people. You want it to look as official as possible, and that's why I really suggest just putting up a simple landing page that just says, I'm running this campaign on these dates. This is what it's about. Sign up to take part. So that when you start reaching out to people, it really looks like you know what you're doing, and it'll get easier for people to say yes if it looks like you really know what you're doing. I've been talking for 40 minutes, so let's take a couple minute break. Stretch or okay, awesome. Welcome back. Step 3, we're going to talk about rallying people. Um, and this is so important because you can't run an effective campaign without people. And it's going to be people that will make it go far, make it go wide. And we're going to really dive into that to make sure that you have the resources to know what kind of people you want and how to mobilize them effectively. The other reason I love doing this before you actually launch the campaign publicly, beyond that initial landing page, is that then you can feel incredibly confident that no matter if like there wasn't anyone else who signed up, you would still be able to have a successful campaign because of who you've rallied behind the scenes. And that can it can evoke a lot of confidence that it's going to be a hit. Now here's my note on influencers. I am a massive fan of influencer strategy for hashtag campaigns because it empowers you to be able to reach audiences that you could never reach on your own for free. And in fact, I'm fairly convinced that I don't think you can do a successful campaign without some influencer strategy. Now, maybe if you had a massively engaged community, maybe if you had 10,000 really engaged people, then yeah, you could probably do it. But if you are really like maybe starting out or your community isn't super engaged online, then influencers can really help you supercharge this. Now, I've seen it a lot because I've seen a lot of people try and run campaigns. I've even had it with some of my clients that if they can't nail working with influencers, that when they go to launch the campaign, it kind of falls flat a little bit. And that can be incredibly discouraging because you put so much work into this, and then to not have it like really get going can be really discouraging. So that's why we want to work with influencers in a powerful way. Now, here's 3 important things that you need to know about the influencers you're going to work with. Number 1, you need to know that they have engaged audiences. If you look specifically on Instagram right now, there are people who have insane amounts of followers, like, I don't know, 100,000, 500,000. But if you look on their posts, they do not have that much engagement. Sometimes they don't even have that many likes, and sometimes they don't have that many comments. Sometimes you can see that it's like one person who has a following of 2,500 will have way more engagement than someone who has a following of 20,000. And so that's what you want, more important than follower numbers, even though those can seem, it can seem like they can hold a lot of weight. They're not always the best indicator. Instead, you want to look at, like, literally go through posts and look at how many people are commenting, how many people are engaging with the content, because that's going to be key. You can also notice usually if you go through someone's post and it looks like they've had a lot of engagement, but it's always the same people commenting. They might also be using Instagram pods, which are where a group of people just comment on each other's posts to try and beat the algorithm. Not a fan of that strategy, and you would want to watch out. You would want to watch out for that, because it's not necessarily true engagement. It's just a smoke show. Number 2, you want them to be influencers that align with you. It's like if you're doing a campaign all about clean beauty, you wouldn't want to work with influencers who don't value clean beauty. Like, it just wouldn't make any sense. You want to work with influencers that align with your values. Another example is that when I've done Imperfect Boss campaigns, I pick influencers who are willing to get real or willing to be vulnerable on the internet. I'm not going to align with influencers who really show the facade of perfection. It's just not going to be a good fit. So really thinking about and sorting through like influencers who carry the same vision or the same emotion or same values. Because two, the people that follow them are going to be people that resonate with you. Also, pick influencers who will join for free. Now, some people might say, that's impossible. How do you get an influencer to do something for free? Now, in this section, I'm going to take you through how I pitch influencers. The mindset that you want to have when you're pitching influencers is that you want to go into this mindset of like, they would be making a real mistake if they don't say yes. Like, I don't understand why they would say no to me, because you want to be in that place where you believe so much in the mission or in the message that you're carrying for the campaign that when someone says no to you, it just doesn't make sense. If you go into it with a mindset of lots of people are going to say no, you're going to have the experience. Lots of people are going to say no. But if you go into it with a mindset of what this thing could make a difference for someone, this thing could change some lives, this thing could inspire some people, this thing matters, it really, really matters, then you're going to get a lot more people who will say yes. So the same idea of like, you go in and you're like, you're not going to get the same results as if you go into something with confidence and conviction. I too wanted to make a note on the difference between micro influencers and heavy hitters. So micro influencers are normally influencers who have less than 5,000, sometimes less than 10,000 followers. And like a heavy hitter would be anyone, basically people over there, probably between 20,000 to 1 million followers. Micro influencers are really powerful, and that's often because one, they have really engaging followings, like really engaged followings, and they're also like really in it with their followers. They probably have a lot of relationship with the people who follow them versus more of those heavy hitters, which they're more like celebrities usually, and they might not necessarily have a lot of relationship with their followers, and they might not have a ton of engagement. Now, some heavy hitters have tons of sway, but some don't. And so part of that too is knowing like who are the right ones to work with for me for this campaign. Now, like I mentioned about not paying free, why I don't pay influencers is because normally for every campaign, I will work with 100 to 200 influencers. And there's no way in the world that I have enough money at this moment in time to pay that many influencers. And I have a boundary that I will not pay one and not, like, I will not give one money and then the rest remain unpaid. Like, if I'm going to pay one, then I'm going to pay them all. If one's not going to be paid, then none of them are going to be paid. That's just a boundary line that I have because I think that they should all have the same experience in the campaign setting. Now, let's say I had an influencer coming in who was doing a lot more. Like, let's say they were going to speak with me like on an online class or something. Then I would come in and say, okay, let's pay you for your time and your expertise. So what are you giving them that's not money? Well, you're giving them impact, the opportunity to make a difference. You're giving them exposure or recognition. Even being partnered with you can be a huge thing. Normally, my biggest thing that I say is that, well, listen, like, if you say yes, then you'll be featured on the website as being a part of it. Also, really driving home the cause or mission. I put more emphasis on that than anything else, because if you can get someone to fall in love with the vision or the cause or the mission, then it doesn't matter. In some ways, it doesn't even matter what you're asking. If they fall in love, they'll say yes. If it hits a chord in them, if it resonates with their own story, they'll say yes. If they think that it matters, they'll say yes. And so that's really going to come down to how you pitch them. Are you able to clearly communicate why you're doing this and why it matters and why they should be a part of it? So how do you find these people? How do you find the right influencers? And well, we brainstorm. Um, so here are some tips that I use to find influencers, especially when I'm looking for new ones. Um, so number one, I look under hashtags currently and see like in there what influencers are posting under that hashtag. So picking the hashtag that really resonates with your message. Like let's say you were doing a campaign on creativity, then maybe um, you want to go under the hashtag like makers gonna make, and see what influencers are posting in that hashtag, and that can help identify them. Also using the suggested feature on Instagram to find out more when you press the arrow beside um, their name on their profile and see who their suggested profiles are that you should also follow. So if you can just, sometimes I can just get down a real rabbit hole in that way alone. I'm like, I find one person and then I look at all the suggested, then pick one out of there and see all the suggested of that one. A lot of times you'll see a lot of the same people over and over through that feature, but it can definitely help you find a few more. A big one I do is finding an ideal follower or an ideal participant of your campaign and looking at who the influencers are that they follow. Because yeah, if they follow them, then yeah, those are the people that'll probably be a good fit for you. I sometimes do like if I want, like I take someone who has a lot of influence, um, and it would be a good fit for the campaign, but maybe wouldn't say yes. So then I look at who they follow so that when they go through their feeds, they can also see that they can see the campaign, they can see that it's happening, and it can create some more of that recognition in front of the people that maybe I want to work with one day. You can also do it with a podcast feature. So you can go on iTunes, look up an influencer that you love or someone you'd like to work with, see the podcast that they're on, see who else that podcast has interviewed, can help also to spur some of that. Or like even going to a certain podcast show and seeing all the guests that have been on there. I have done that as well. Obviously, some of those are pretty time intensive, but using a couple of those strategies will help to make sure that you're pitching the right people and people that would really be a gift and an asset to the campaign that you're building. So we're going to go over a pitch. This is literally the exact pitch I use. And I'm going to show you why every piece is important. You'll have access to this later, so don't feel like you have to write it all down because it's going to be a lot of text. But I wanted to give you a good idea of like how to make the pitch effective. And you can really use this pitch for anything way beyond just campaigns, specifically for influencer strategy. So I think it's good. It's definitely good all around. So first thing that's most important is you need to make it personal. Do not, I repeat, do not send mass influencer pitches or mass pitches in general. I've definitely been on the receiving end of pitches that are general, and I'll just tell you that never have I ever said yes. So I think that pretty much goes for a lot of people. So make each one personal. That's what this first paragraph is all about. In some ways, honestly, proving that you're actually talking to them specifically. It's not generalized, that you know who they are, that you love them, that you think that they're important, whatever. Just kind of establishing a sense of connection. So, hey, Ashley, for example, first off, you're kind of amazing. So I like to just go in with a compliment off the bat. And I can say that with confidence because I think everyone's amazing in their own right. And then you can speak to something you love about them or something you know that they've been working on, like I don't know, like I love the new thing that you're doing. Oh my gosh, it was so fun reading about how you went on that trip or whatever. In the second paragraph, we want to continue on that, acknowledging them and sort of showing them that you're about to tell them something exciting. So a lot of my copy is that I use, like a lot of my language I use matches with my brand, which is very encouraging and kind of peppy and high energy, fun. And so you'll see that in the way that I communicate. Now, that's not going to fit for every organization, brand, company, because you're all different, and you might be a lot more formal, or you might be a lot more serious, or you might be even more silly than I am. So keep that in mind too. So I'll say, like, I'm rolling into your box with a quick question. I see you as an inspiring voice. I love being able to just say, like, I see you as this. I see you as a leader. I see you as someone to follow. Like, I see you as someone who has genuine influence. I see you as a voice, as a visionary. That just helps also to kind of create this, like, you really see them, and you really believe that you have something to give. And I've got some serious party hat emojis for who you are. Then I introduce myself, like, who am I? What do I do? I always say something. I know we haven't officially met, but if we did, I'd probably try to hug, high five you, something else super fun real fast. I like doing that because it just brings a sense of personality, helps you all feel, oh, like, that's nice, we're connected. And then I introduce myself, say my name, say my position, and then say what I'm on a mission to do. So whether it's that you are working for a company, or you are running your own thing, this is in that spot where you can start to write that, but really put emphasis there on what the mission is, because this is when you're going to start to sort of strike something in their heart. Then I just introduce the campaign. So I say, on these dates, I'm running the campaign called, and I'm rallying an incredible group of, who are you rallying? You could be rallying youth. You could be rallying entrepreneurs. You could be rallying moms, to crash social media. And then we write in the prompt, and then we say, so we can do this. I should have bolded this where it says, so we can, because this is where you can really drive the message home. And it's like you're just becoming more and more and more compelling as they read on. And then I always have a section of, like, this is where I'm making the ask. This is what I want them to do. This is why I want them involved, and I want to ask you if you would join me. If you would join me as an influencer, if you would join me in posting, etc. Now, in this next paragraph is where we feel like, I would say, like, the final sort of climax of the impact and the big picture, and just write about what we could do together. How are we going to change something? How are we going to make a difference? How are people going to walk away with something new? How are we going to become a solution to a problem? How are we going to disrupt things? How are we going to create waves? And this is where, in what I say, so you just bring the fire in this place, because it's like that first it was just a hook, then it was the line, now it's like a sinker. And then I just say, I really like outline what's going to happen next if they decide to say yes. So they just reply to this email, they post, and they mention me, and then they get highlighted. So I'm again emphasizing the fact that they will get something out of this beyond the impact and the cause alone. They'll also get recognition or visibility, etc., or be known as something that was involved with the work that I do. This part, the last part too, is really important to me. I think it's always important to say, if it's a no, like, if it doesn't feel good, if it's not the right time, I totally get it. And it doesn't change, like, how I see you. It doesn't change how amazing I still think you are. I'm still going to be cheering for you. I'm still going to be in your corner. I'm still going to be following your stuff. I like to do that from just a human level because um, I am a high advocate of people saying no to the things that they don't feel called to do, and I'm a high advocate for people saying yes to the things that are pulling on their heart. Um, so it's a way to maintain relationship because I've definitely had people who um, said no, but said yes later. I've had people who said, I don't know, or like, really, why should I? And I'm able to go in and say, like, this is really why you should. This is why I think it would be awesome for you to be involved. This is why I think it would be different because you said yes. And not being afraid to speak the truth, but also not being afraid to honor where they're at. One of the worst things that can be done with pitching is when you pitch someone to be involved in your campaign and they say no and then you don't respond. Because in that situation, you have almost damaged a relationship that could have future partnership. And I think that's always something important to keep in mind. 3 important things I wanted also to mention about influencers is that definitely track them. So how I run it is I will create, and with my clients, I will create a spreadsheet. I will brainstorm a list of influencers that I think would be good. Right, I put in their name, Instagram, and email. When I start reaching out to them, I track on the spreadsheet who said yes, who said no, who's not answering me. I always follow up with them. I will follow up with them sometimes once, but sometimes up to 4 times, just depending on who. I'm definitely a fan of the follow up, and a lot of action can happen in the follow up. And to really sell it, like if someone comes back and says, I don't know, like I had this one influencer one time who came back and said, why should I say yes? Why should I say yes to you when people pay me a lot of money? And you're not, basically. And I was like, listen, do you want to change lives or not? But also that's what I said. I said, you want to say yes to this because you're going to make an impact. Like there might be someone out there who feels like they're the only one who's imperfect. And by you sharing and posting your story, they're going to realize that they're not alone and they're going to be set free from the pressure of perfection. And she came back and she said, yes, she was amazing. She was really amazing. Don't be afraid to sell it. And there's other people roles that can also be included. I always do a people role of encouragers. So I always have participants, influencers, encouragers. Participants are anyone who sign up via the website, via that landing page, people on my email list, etc. Encouragers are just people who cultivate community during the campaign. They're people who are building relationships, reaching out, commenting on people's posts. I do this because it creates a sense of community. That if I can have an intentional group of people of like 15, 20, 30 people whose main job is just to go through the hashtag during those 3 days and comment and say something in response to what they posted, depending on the campaign, it creates a greater sense of community. And I mean, you could call that role so many other things, not just encouragers. It could be like community builders or advocates or voices or team members, whatever. Also, traditional media is not something I've really played around with. I don't find that it always gets the best results, but especially if you're doing a short-term campaign, and I think traditional media needs to be something that is secured way long in advance. But it could be good, especially a lot of the bigger digital platforms. And participants, like I said, people who just sign up. A lot of times when influencers start sharing, then you'll get more signups, and then you can use those emails to grow your mailing list as well. Another part of rallying is utilizing resources. This is in no way mandatory, but it can be something that's helpful. It can be something that helps people spread the word beyond influencers. So how I work it is that whenever I run a campaign, I have a campaign portal where people can sign in and they can download things. So they could download pre-written social media copy. They could download like a Facebook profile cover. They could download shareable posts or stories. I also like to include like just free resources. So I've done things like workbooks, playlists, desktop or phone backgrounds, workshops, etc. It's another way to encourage people to sign up, because then it's like, you get to be a part of this amazing thing. You get to be involved with all these people. You get to make a difference with us, and you also get all this free stuff. People love free stuff, so it can really help. In this step, you'll also want to mobilize your existing community. So the community already has, by either announcing it to your email list or on social media to invite your existing audience. I don't normally mobilize my existing community till I have mobilized a large group of influencers, just because it helps me with my confidence. But it can be done either way. Ignore that second point, because that was for another step. Also, writing content. Through a campaign, you're going to want to be in touch with people a lot. So my email schedule normally is that I will email people, like when they sign up, they get like a autoresponder, but then I'll email them a week before the campaign, a night before the campaign, every day of the campaign, and the day after. And if you can write all that content out before the campaign even starts, then it's taken care of, and it's a little bit of like a load off your back, or off the back of your team. This stage is just about getting as many people signed up as you can, creating a goal for yourself in your mind of like, I want to have this many people involved. I want to have 250, 500, 1,000. Everything you do in this point is just about getting people signed up and committed. Because the more you can do that, the greater your reach is going to be, and the easier it will be to attain a sense of viral. If you can really like take a campaign and really do it in the 3 days and really get a lot of people involved, it should create this effect of like, this is everywhere. And when people start seeing it everywhere, when they see it like 3 times, 5 times, 7 times, it's like they pause and they think, what is this? What's going on here? Like, I need to know more about this. And so if you can get as many people committed in this stage, it'll be easier to create that viral effect when the campaign launches. Woo! That was step 3, rallying, an incredibly important step. These last 2 steps are a lot more about writing out the work that you've already done in the first 3. The bulk of the work is done in the first 3 steps. And this is, launch and lead are more about seeing what happens, showing up, serving, and just seeing what happens and how you can support people. Like I said, watch all your work come to pass and just foster a sense of community. If your job, if anything, is just keep fostering community during this time, because that's what's going to stick with people, and that's what's going to invite more people in. So this is like a daily checklist of what I would do every day of the campaign. So the launch period of a campaign is literally the campaign dates. So if my campaign is 3 days, my launch period of the campaign is those 3 days. And these are things that I'm going to do every single day to keep it going, keep community going, and all of that. So number 1 is post yourself. Whatever your prompt is, make the post yourself, whether that's on your personal Instagram or on the Instagram of whatever it is that you lead. Number 2, engage with people. So comment and like repost and reshare, post your stories, notice things about what people share, pull out the gold in what they're saying, that type of thing. Really going in there with such an encouraging spirit of like, this is amazing. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks so much for showing up. Um, Track influencers. So get back to the hand it in the spreadsheet and track who's saying yes, who's saying no, um, and but then also who has actually posted. Because if you mark down who's posted, by the if you do a three day campaign, by the second day you can go in and follow up with those people who haven't posted and just say, hey. Normally, how I like to word it is, hey, um, I noticed that you haven't posted yet. I can't wait to see what you share. It's going to be so amazing. Like, let me know if there's any way that I can support you. Versus coming in and saying, hey, I noticed you haven't posted. Like, where's that? Where's that post at? But coming in a much more supportive approach is my general leadership tip. Also, be active on stories, even if that's like resharing things, giving updates, giving announcements, doing fun things. A big thing that has been popular in our campaigns is doing Instagram story templates like bingos and like fill this out or tag people in this, etc. Send daily emails. So there's emails that you've ideally written beforehand, just making sure that they're sending out, replying to any responses, and being ready to lead in the next step of like how you're taking people. So, for example, if the way that you're going to lead people forward is to get them to sign up for something, making sure that all those things are in place, that it's ready to go. So there's not necessarily any technical mishaps or hiccups. And then the last part is using the momentum of your campaign to lead people into what's next, which I've already touched on a couple of times. But once the campaign ends, if it's done amazing, there will be such a sense of hype, energy, momentum. People will literally be asking you, what's next? And that's what you want. Like, you want to get people into that place, but then you want to act quickly to turn them into long-term advocates, feel loyal to your vision, and are really inspired to take some sort of action. The faster you can get someone to take action, the more likely they are to be a loyal long-term advocate. There are just a couple ideas if you're like, I don't know what a campaign should lead into or how I want to lead people after. Something free, like some type of download or a workshop or something that they can grab for free that will empower them. Could lead into an announcement. You want to announce a new thing that you're up to, a new initiative. You want to announce something that's coming. It's a good way to pull on that and start to like almost create a wait list or an email list to get people excited for what's coming next. Funnel to existing programs. So take the momentum or hype of what you just created and funnel them into existing initiatives. Like, get them to buy something, like volunteer or pledge or whatever. And then launch a new initiative. It's a great way to launch something completely brand new and to really bring in income through those last two, which I would honestly really recommend making the leading thing something that includes income, because campaigns are a decent amount of work and obviously you're doing a ton of time, and there's value in expanding your following, there's value in getting that recognition, but there's no true value like bringing in funding. So if I was going to recommend, I would say definitely one of the last two. And then you don't forget to say thank you to everyone involved. It takes a lot of people to pull off one well. So saying thank you to your influencers, thank you to the participants, thank you to any other guests that you have come in, thank you to any traditional media encouragers. Also, if you do sponsors, which is not something that I covered in the workshop, but you can also use sponsors in campaigns to bring money in. and thank them. It can be a way to fund a campaign. If your goal is focused on growing or expanding your community, and continue to nurture your community moving forward. So like once the campaign is done, you've led them into what's happening next. Continue to nurture them. Continue to give them spaces to connect and to grow, and that's going to be incredibly powerful. What you don't want is to have all this hype momentum, you lead them into something, and then you don't talk to them, like they don't hear from you on email or social media for years, months, maybe not years, months, and they're like, oh, like it's almost a sure way to almost get people to fall off, and we don't want that. We want there to be a long-term gain, a long-term success, to what you just put all this work into. So that's my workshop on social campaigns.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're getting questions coming in, but definitely feel free to raise your hand and I will put you in. So actually, if you want to, you can also stop sharing your screen if you want. So
Yeah.
there's just your face. Look at that. Love it. Okay. So how do you get influencers' emails, or how are you reaching them?
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. So there are two strategies that I use. One is to make initial contact to influencers through Instagram DMs. The only problem with that is that Instagram might block you because they're like, why are you sending so many DMs? But I find that there can be a better return rate through DM than email, because I find that a lot of people are not on top of their email inboxes. So then if you reach out through Instagram DM, you say, like, this is what I got going on. I'd really love for you to be involved. And they're like, I'm interested, like, send me more information. Then I just say, oh, where can I send that? And that's how I get their email. But if I'm just doing it through email, then I just do it through your classic search, going on their website, figuring out if I can find their email. I'll even send through contact forms, or there is a resource out there called, I think it's called Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes I'll use that, but I find that a lot of personal emails aren't necessarily on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leading with a compliment and leading with a meaningful compliment opens doors. And you know
Yeah.
that, yeah, like it has to be meaningful and real, but that it really does make a huge difference. What
Yeah, it does.
what platform do you use to manage your social channels? What kind of dashboard do you
Um,
use?
well, I mostly use Tailwind
Okay,
for
yeah,
like scheduling and stuff. Yeah.
great. Yeah, that one is pretty rarely used among nonprofits. So Tailwind is definitely used amongst Pinterest and Instagram
Yeah.
influencers, right? I mean, that's really the area that it's really strong. It is a cool tool. So Tailwind is
Yeah.
something for people to look into for sure. Okay, Jennifer Bell, I'm about to unmute you. Are you ready to ask your question? Let's go. Okay, you're on, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm participating from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm the marketing director for a nonprofit health education organization. We're a field trip destination for schools and organizations, but we also run a lot of social marketing campaigns, including several hashtag campaigns.
Mm.
And we have one of those campaigns that has been around forever. And it's so your shelf
Mm.
life of 3 days kind of made me go, huh. And um, the campaign, we've recently did some focus groups, and people said, yeah, we'd like to know more about this campaign. So we have some funds to promote it commercially. And so I'm wondering if you've seen any examples of like promoting a hashtag in a traditional
Mm-hmm.
way with TV and billboards and paid social
Mm-hmm.
media. And it's kind of a catch-22. Do we promote the hashtag, or we promote the outcome of the hashtag, which is to improve your health tips for better nutrition and physical activity?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that paid avenues can definitely help. I know that through like social paid advertising that I've seen a lot of people get a lot of return. Normally, the way that we have done paid advertising, like how we position it, is position it from like a vision perspective of like, this is what this campaign is about. This is the after effects of what this campaign can create. Do you want to be a part of this? A big thing, a big phrase I always use when I'm promoting campaigns is like, "Are you in?" And I found that if you can position it that way, it's a lot more helpful than just saying like, then kind of being more descriptive of like, this is going on. Are you interested? Making it more of like almost like a rally call has worked really well in paid advertising. But I could see also it working really well with more traditional advertising like billboards and TV. I think if continuing to make the mission the core of the language is what will make it most compelling and effective.
Thank you. That was helpful. I like the idea of the focus being the outcome of the campaign versus just following
Yeah.
the campaign. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Okay, Sarah Ann, you're up next. You're both up next in my question queue, but also in the hand raise. So let's have you just ask it in real life. Here we go. You're on.
Great. I've obviously got a lot of questions. Campaign. So I'm curious if you would say it's better to kind of funnel your attention for a specific campaign to like a specific platform, or if they can kind of span platforms. I know I'm just personally much more of an Instagram user and feel a lot more confident in focusing attention on that for this kind of thing. But a lot of the leadership in my organization are big Facebook people and tend to only look at that side of our social media. So I'm just curious if you would typically try to adapt your campaign for like for every platform, or really just hone in on one.
Yeah, I think that the most important question to ask is, where are the people that you're wanting to reach hang out the most?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say I'm more of a fan of focusing on one platform at a time. Unless you had a campaign that like really took off. But sometimes if you're trying to get it to get off the ground on multiple platforms, like it's sort of like you can't put as much energy and resources into multiple platforms as you could put into one. And so you just might not get the results that you hope for. But I could see, because like right now, do you feel like the people that you guys want to reach are on one platform versus the other?
Depends on who you ask. I would say.
Yeah.
We definitely tend to get more engagement on Instagram, and we have a larger following on Facebook, but we definitely have more engagement on our Instagram.
Yeah, then I would definitely say it. It needs to be an Instagram campaign.
Great. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
And one more quick question that I put in the chat. So when you're asking influencers to participate, do you just ask them to post once during the campaign, or are you asking them for every day to do something?
So yeah, I always say you only have to post once, and it can be in your feed and on your stories. I find now that, for some people that posts do better in stories versus feed anyway. And I say you can participate as much as you want, but you only have to post once.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. So Marta asks, how many influencers do you typically use for a campaign?
Yeah, so I normally will use, my thing is I always have to have at least 100, which maybe might seem like a lot. But I find 100 gives the best results. But I have had up to 200. And I will always pitch double what I want. So if I want 200, I'm pitching at least 400.
How long does that typically take you to pitch? Like when you're like, okay, tonight's the time, I'm doing my 100. Do you like
Oh yeah.
block out hours? Like how long does it typically take?
well, so
Well,
sometimes, sometimes my pitches sound really personal. They're not.
yeah.
I'm not writing unique things for every single person. So then if I'm just switching out names, then I could probably send like 50 in a couple hours.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, you can probably crank through.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
crank them out.
I would say yeah. It's still a couple hours, but I mean, I think yeah, but I do feel like this pitch, it's just like media, right? It's just like media relations. And if you just think about it
Mm-hmm.
that way, and it's the same thing, right? You would put just as much time and effort into that, and that this is just your channel, right? It's just your outlet. So
Yeah. Yeah, for
let's see.
sure.
Heather asks, oh, how many infos do you try to get for your campaign? Because you kind of said that if you wanted 100,
Yeah.
you do 2 for 1, right? So
Yeah.
okay, sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mario. Mario is a really great long question. So let me see. Let me gear up for my dramatic read of Mario's question. Okay. So, what are some of the strategies that you are using in between campaigns as either general maintenance or to keep campaign momentum? And do you find that downtime is also a valuable strategy so it's not a go, go, go from campaign to campaign?
Yeah, those are really good questions. Yeah, so that's why I personally like not having a campaign go all the time either. I like having those like hyper focused moments because one, it would not be sustainable for me to be like doing a new campaign like every single month. Like I would be totally burnt out. But it also creates a little bit of like anticipation and hunger in people to not have it going on all the time. And like, for example, I know with my audience, if I say that I'm doing another campaign, like people are really like eager and excited to be a part of it because it's not happening all the time. And then for the first question, in terms about like maintaining that, I think that there's like a couple strategies. Like one just like continuing, like I had mentioned, continuing to nurture through active social media and through active like communications, whether that's through email or a million other things. Also creating another one that I haven't done personally, but I know can be really powerful is like creating some type of membership so that it's almost like these campaigns become like these like flashes in the pan of community, but then the relationships are continuing to build through in between campaigns through a membership. Also like using events can be really powerful. Like you bring people together in campaigns, but then there's like these sporadic in-person events.
Yeah. One thing we've done for our clients too is create hashtags around brand that is more of a everyday kind of hashtag. So like one way, the cat shelter always bring up because they're really our best kind of ongoing engagement example. But we have Forever Safe is one so that people who adopt a cat can post to that. So that's kind of a brand curation campaign, and we use that to repost and things like that. But I think there's things that are about your brand that you should always post to, but then there's things that are more campaign focused. So great. And I love Mario's long questions. I just want to make sure that Mario knows that his questions are loved. I just have to like gear up for my dramatic read. Okay. So Heather asks, how do you draw campaign participants into your next step if they're involved in the campaign? So maybe not sign up on a landing page or provide their email. So how do you kind of get people to take the next step?
Like after the campaign is over?
Correct. Like what's your engagement strategy?
Yes. Well, I find that if the campaign has done well, that there's like a high level of engagement already. And so then I will just, like whatever the thing is that I'm offering next, I'll send out normally I'll send out an email on it first, and then I'll do like start talking about it on social media and do like video. And I find that works well. Then I will also do a lot of check-ins with people who are highly involved in the campaign and be like, did you see the announcement? Did you see what we've got going on? Do you want to be a part of it? Probably one of the most successful things that I offered post the campaign was I opened up tickets to my camp. And it was like crazy. I think in 1 month brought it like 15,000
Wow.
post campaign. But it was just because of that, because people were like, I'm ready, now let's do this. Like, let's do it in person.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Do you create these campaigns as a precursor to something bigger? So yeah, that's something that you need to ask people to do. That's a harder ask, right? Like buy tickets to a camp. That's a hard ask, right? And,
yeah.
So
well, that was crazy because I mean, that was especially crazy because the tickets were like $800.
Yeah.
They weren't like, it wasn't like a $50 thing, which goes to show that you can get real results if you put the work in.
Yeah, and it's just a lot of work. And I mean, I think, and your campaigns are the whole package. Like you just talked about strategy today, but your campaigns also have an aesthetic and a voice and all those good things about brand that every nonprofit should really care a lot about, right? And that I think what you do and why I wanted you at Great Good was because it's a brand, right? And you online come off as a person that people want to hang out with, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm sure you are in real life, right? And I think so what nonprofits should do is think about how do you create a brand and a persona of your brand of somebody that people want to be around and hang out with, right? And I think that's something that is, I think that we can all learn from online influencers. This is why this session was really important to me, was that nonprofits can do that because people want to be with you. You're not a can of Coke, you're not a can of Pepsi. Like people want to be with your mission. So how do you kind of create that persona? So I hope people kind of got that out of this too. Okay, Jennifer asks, can you talk a little bit more about brand campaigns versus call to action campaigns? So she uses hashtags to brand various types of Twitter content. Oh, interesting. So yeah, she's kind of curating her content through hashtags. So can you kind of talk about a brand campaign versus call to action?
Yeah, well, and I mean, that's kind of what you were referring to as well, right, with the cat shelter?
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think so a brand campaign for us is things that are always part of our content. So like we're always hashtagging certain types of content to either be seen or to create a community around. And then more of these call to action campaigns are the short-lived, these 3-day or couple week long thing around Child Abuse Prevention Month or something like that, that has this opportunity to be more timely and more have greater momentum in the moment. So do you have anything with that, Ashley, too?
Yeah, and I would also say like having like one of each, but not really more than one. Like you don't want to have like 7 brand hashtags.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's so confusing. And because these like action focused campaigns, like they take so much time, like I realistically suggest only once a year.
Interesting. Oh, that's good to know too. Yeah, that's great. And I do think especially now with what we're all looking at in the next year and our own productivity and that like do it once a year, twice a year, like really think about how to use this as a special campaign to activate this special audience into action. That's interesting. That's a good point. So like what's your run up to that? So like say, okay, you're going May 1st. with your 3-day blitz, how far back do you really start like thinking about your
Yeah.
influencers and your lists and stuff like that?
Well, for me, because I've done it so many times, it's a little bit shorter. So normally like 2 months for me.
Okay.
But I mean, like I have a lot of things done. It's just about like tweaking them. But my one standard rule is that I always start pitching influencers 1 month in advance, and not
Great.
sooner than that, but not later than that. Because 1 month I feel like it's good enough time where people are like, okay, I can put it on my calendar, and it's not too far away where they're thinking, yeah, okay, in the future.
Yeah, exactly. I can forget about it. Yeah.
But I really suggest 3 months. I think is a solid amount of time to really get strategy in place and figure out what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. We work with a lot of coalitions of other nonprofits. And yeah, like I like to get them their content, that if they're going to be our influencers, quote unquote influencers, I like to get them their content between 3 and 6 weeks before, because we're working with a lot of like government organizations, and they have so much review that it's going to take 6 weeks for it to get through the machine. So
yeah,
yeah, I agree. That kind of 3 months is perfect. You can pull it off in 2, but it's not going to be as effective. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
How do you keep your list of influencers? Do you have a list of folks you're like, oh, I want to ask that person for my next thing? Or do you just kind of look through your feed and just like, yeah, that person deserves an ask? How do you kind of find your, how do you remember who to ask? That's my problem too. Like, oh, I want to ask them and I forgot.
Well, so a couple of things. For Instagram, because that's where the bulk of my campaigns are happening, I use like the feature to save posts.
Okay, that's a good idea.
And then I make like an album of influencers I want to pitch. So then when I'm ready to make the spreadsheet, like I already have this album of people I want to be involved.
Cool.
And it can be very, depending on who you are, like some people we really love scrolling. So then it's like I feel like I'm kind of being productive because I'm looking for influencers while scrolling. And then I always have a spreadsheet. Now I haven't gotten anything more fancy than this, but I have like a influencer bank of every influencer who's ever worked with me. And so then when I start going, like let's say I was going to do a campaign in 2 months, like I'll start with those influencers first who worked with me before and I've enjoyed working with, and ask them. So it's a lot easier to get to like 100, 200 when you have like a list of like 75.
Absolutely.
Or whatever.
That's a good idea. Yeah. I like the idea of using the tool because you're in it, right? And you don't want to get out of it and put it in Evernote or something silly. Like you want to just put it, in your feed as you're going through. Yeah. Interesting. Cool. What other rando questions? This is like the dawn question hour now. Is there anybody else who has questions?
Yeah, ask me anything.
So I think, I mean, how do you kind of decide? So you have one campaign a year. What's your criteria for deciding now about how you're going to organize people?
Wait, what do you mean?
How do you decide? So you said you're like once a year. So what's your once a year thing? Like, what are you going to do?
Well, when I started off, I was not doing them once a year. I was doing them 3 to 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Which I don't recommend. So now, like, I really think about what would I want to what would I want to do, or like what would I want to offer that a campaign would fit well with. So, like for example, if I'm going to sell camp, maybe I want to do a community focused hashtag campaign. The most recent one I did was called #TheImperfectHoliday, and it was all about how the holidays can be really imperfect for some people. And then at the end, I sold like a workshop and workbook on how to thrive during the holidays.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Okay.
Great.
Good. I like it. Last call for questions. If anybody else has something up there, you want to raise your hand or ask it. This is the time. Let's see. So what's your favorite? Yeah, so you mentioned some big ones, but is there anybody local that we should, or recently around COVID that you think we should look at? Any kind of cool campaigns?
Hmm.
Everybody's making so much stuff. It is like a glut of content.
I know there was a cool one going around, but I forget the hashtag. But it was all about sidewalk art.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a
I think
couple.
I saw
Oh,
some of that
Crayola.
too.
Crayola has one. Crayola has one about sidewalk, like sidewalk chalk art. So that'd
Cute.
be cool one to look at.
Yeah,
I haven't seen like a lot of. I haven't seen like a lot of like non-corporate ones though.
I know. Yeah, because it's that, yeah, they're pivoting fast and their agencies, their advertising agencies are like, we can help you do this thing right now. Let's go.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Another tip too in Instagram is that you can follow hashtags. So if you wanted to see
mhm.
how people are developing their campaign, you can follow it over time and it'll auto push you content, which is really nice. Um, I do that a lot in my own Instagram feed of just actually honestly I do it for travel. I like before I travel someplace, which is really sad now because I don't have any. But before I travel someplace, I'll
Yeah.
travel all the like visit LA and like, I heart LA type of things. And it actually is great for
Yeah.
pushing content. But if you want to get inspired by stuff, I think that's also a good way of continuing to follow a campaign over time. So,
Yeah. Well, another interesting thing is I never use the same hashtags in my situation because, like, I never have two campaigns with the same hashtag.
mhm.
Because, for example, if you went and looked up the imperfect boss hashtag, which is the hashtag that I started with, I think it has, I don't know, like 30,000 or something.
Yeah.
And now it's like there's people are just using the hashtag, but it's not really related.
Yeah.
Like they're just using it to get seen, and so then that's why I like to. I literally change it up every single time.
Okay. And then I mean, for you, it's probably not as critical, but do you do any reporting or tracking of your hashtag, like the posts themselves? Do you like drop it do you use any like if this or that, or do you track your posts at all?
The only thing I've done is like track like hashtag reach,
Okay.
um, but I don't like literally the website could be telling me something and it might not even be true, but I'm just like gonna take it.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's true
putting like
too.
a ton of
Yeah.
stock into it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah. Yeah. Kate, if you're still on, if not, I'll send this around to everybody. We use a Google app that actually pulls every tweet and I think public Instagram on a hashtag into a spreadsheet. So you have to have it
oh wow,
before you start your campaign. Actually, no, she found a magic one that like backdates. So I'll send this around with this one. It's a really great tool for reporting because for nonprofits, that's important to prove that this idea is a good idea. It's that people are actually doing it. Um, and so yeah, we'll send around that resource and we'll attach it to this presentation. It's a really cool thing and it's a free app. You just have to remember to do it at the beginning ish of your campaign or else you'll lose content. So
yeah, that's cool.
okay. One more question from Heather is do you have any advice on testing out your campaign concept? Do you
Hmm.
go to anybody for that gut check when you're in that message concept phase?
Hmm. Yeah, so I will definitely, when I think of a campaign concept, we'll definitely like check, like sort of just like bounce it off a bunch of people and see like what their gut reaction is like, are they like, oh my gosh, like I have to be involved, or are they like, that's weird? um, and that will kind of determine whether I move forward with it. Normally, for me, like I could feel in my gut if it's something to move forward with. Um, but some of that just comes from like from doing so many campaigns. Um, and then also when I start pitching, like I'll normally when I start pitching, like the first few people I'll pitch are people that I know really well, and then sometimes if the response like feels off, or people are just like not jumping at it, I might change it altogether. But normally that's just like, it's very similar to like checking out with people that you know and who can give like sort of that instant feedback.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, we've run things through quick focus groups, just by doing like a paid Facebook ad and running, kind of a quick survey that way to get a good pulse on
Yeah.
on the community. We've done that, like $50 quick survey thing. And then yeah, I mean, honestly, and if it's for nonprofits, of sending it to clients and that sort of thing, making sure they feel that it's not insensitive to the situation is sometimes a good idea too, and seeing if clients would like to participate in it. So in the chat, Kate came through. She knows this is why I'm like, I don't know, Kate has it. She posted a link to our tool that we've been using. It's great. It is highly effective. It's mostly, I think if anything, it's only Twitter, but it's really good if that's what you want to do. And it's really nice for doing reporting, right? Because your board, your boss, in our case, our clients want to know that it's effective.
Yeah.
Okay. Any last questions? These are the last few minutes. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ashley. This was amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and have a productive rest of your week. And thank you so much for everything you do and contributing to definitely the happiness of my Instagram account. So thank you.
Amazing. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.